As concerns grow over how Iran will respond to U.S. strikes against its nuclear facilities, there's also a lot of questions popping up about what led to this moment. Hillary Kallisman, a professor of Middle Eastern history at CU Boulder, is joining me now to explain kind of how we got here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. So we know that tensions between Iran and the United States have been growing for over 70 years, right? This has been going on for decades. But let's talk about some of the game-changing moments so far.
I would say one of the moments that's really the most important for Iranians to remember is actually a coup that took place in 1953. It's something where that's actually Iran's last democratically elected leadership. His name was Mohammad Mossadegh, and the US, alongside Britain, removed him from office in order to pave the way for the Shah of Iran to return. And it's something where for Iranians, that's kind of the beginning of their more difficult relationship with the US. They see it as a power that sort of interfered with their country, and particularly with one of their last chances at democracy and, to a certain degree, independence from foreign interference.
Sure, and what about more recently?
More recently, I think we have to keep in mind that Iran and Israel were actually allies alongside the US up until the 1979 revolution. After that revolution, Iran really sort of takes on a much more hostile tone towards the United States, also towards Israel, with the advent of this Islamic regime. Now, in more recent years, you've seen a kind of waffling of policy, right? Both on sort of the part of Iran and on the part of the United States in terms of should there be negotiations surrounding whether or not Iran can have nuclear capabilities, whether or not it could develop a weapon. And I think that one of the most difficult aspects of this is that sort of the US's track record in Iran is not one that inspires a lot of trust, and vice versa.
So, Hillary, we know that the U.S. is not alone in this. We've got other countries trying to get Iran to shut down their nuclear programs for a long time. So why is the international community so concerned about Iran?
Well, one of the things I think it's important to think about is what we're actually talking about here is the development of a nuclear bomb, right? This is not talking about a regional power increasing their influence. This is the development of an incredibly destructive weapon. And one of the concerns is that, right, Iran is currently sort of allied to a certain extent with Russia and China. And so there's an assumption that should it develop one for Europe, for the United States, particularly for Israel, that this would put Iran in an uncomfortably powerful position.
Mm-hmm. So we know that the U.S. didn't take action right away, right? The U.S. waited to strike Iran a little more than a week after Israel did. So what role has Israel played in all of this?
I would say, in this particular situation, I think Israel is capitalizing on the current geopolitics in the Middle East, right? Israel has sort of decimated Iran's proxies in the area, right? Sort of Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip have been severely damaged by Israel's actions, over the course of the past year. And I think for Israel, this has then marked an opportunity to go after Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, has made it clear for decades that he's afraid of Iran developing a nuclear weapon. And I think for him, in terms of the situation in the region, he saw this as a strong opportunity to do so. Mm-hmm. He had the excuse of the sort of nuclear proliferation body saying that they were concerned Iran was increasing its enrichment of uranium. And he has a more sympathetic administration. So I think for Israel, this is a moment of opportunity.
Sure. I want to circle back to something that you said earlier. I thought it was really interesting that, both countries don't really have the best track record. Let's talk a little bit about Iran. How do they historically respond to threats like this?
Well, I would say Iran is a country, right? So it's something where it has borders, it has a government with a clear location. So this means that its response to attacks to a certain extent needs to be measured because it can be attacked in turn, right? This is not a non-governmental, terrorist organization. So historically, they've tried to use those as ways of sort of diminishing the possibility that they will in turn be attacked within their own borders. Right now, though, I'm not really sure what kind of options are open to them to a certain extent, because they've been attacked and they need to respond partially in order to signal that their regime is still in power, that it is still in control of their country. But historically, they've tended to target, they tended to use proxies as a way of responding to these kind of attacks.
Sure. Hillary, thank you so much for helping us kind of break it down. Definitely a lot to keep our eyes on as this is all still unfolding in the new early stages of this, so thank you. And of course, we will continue to keep our eye on the latest and the conflict with Iran and the local reactions here in Colorado as well. Of course, you can stay up to date with us by downloading the 9 News Plus app on your TV. Watch for free. You can also download the 9 News app on your phone.